it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Marsh!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, the playoffs are underway. We had some great games over the weekend, and more again tonight will be coming up. Another 4-game slate on the docket for the NHL. But let's look back at the weekend, Pierre. Let's go back to Saturday. Start there. We'll work our way to today. Mm-hmm. And, of course, on Saturday, you had the first game of the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. It was the New York Islanders, Carolina Hurricanes. That game kind of went the way I expected it, Pierre. A tight, low-scoring game. I think that, the Islanders, I don't know how many games this series goes, but I feel like they're going to be in every game. But Carolina's slightly going to be a little better each game.
There's a couple things about that series. Number one, I'm watching that take place. I'm going, Jacques Lemaire is not on the bench. Jacques Lemaire is probably not in the rink, but Jacques Lemaire's influence is definitely affecting the New York Islanders. You watch how they play in the neutral zone. You watch how they front the opposition. Carolina is one of the higher shot volume teams in the league. Mm-hmm. They had a hard time getting to 25.
Exactly.
So part of that is the influence of Jacques Lemaire. Patrick Roy, obviously, very, very sturdy when it comes to defensive tactics. Dougie Huda, very good. And don't forget, Johnny McLean played in New Jersey for Jacques Lemaire.
Yep.
Patrick Roy, part of the 86 Montreal Canadiens team. Jacques Lemaire was an advisor to Jean Perron and the Canadiens. So
don't forget the man running.
And I'm agreeing with you. And so I'm seeing the Islanders staying in all these games. I don't think they're going to win 4. I do think they'll win a couple.
Yeah.
But what I'm noticing is Brind'Amour knows how to coach.
He does.
Jimmy, it wasn't brought up on the television show I watched, but I will bring it up here. The deciding moment for Carolina to start the second or the third period is when Jake Gensel was moved from left wing to right wing.
That's right.
And Andrei Svechnikov was moved from the third line, where he played with Stahl and Martinook, up to the first line, and they moved Seth Jarvis back. Mm-hmm. It totally changed the dynamic of that game. Svechnikov took that game over offensively. Seth Jarvis had a massive third period. Jordan Stahl and Martinook were outstanding. And Aho and Gensel did not have a great game one, but Svechnikov had a great third period. And it's because he was playing with Aho and Gensel.
I thought, and too, I mean, obviously he scored, but I thought Kuznetsov too. I like the energy he had as well.
Yeah, energy.
He looks very rejuvenated since he came to Carolina. It seems like he's finally finding the game again to be fun, Pierre. I think that's sort of something maybe he lost, obviously, with everything he's been through. It seems like he's having fun out there again.
Well, you see him play with a guy like Marty Necas, who's got a lot of speed, and you see him play with a crafty playmaker like Teo Teravainen, and all of a sudden you're going, okay, this guy's having fun. It's to your point.
Yeah.
Because he loves the speed of Necas and the finishing ability and the creativity. Teravainen is one of the better creative players in the league. We just don't talk about him enough. And I will just tell you, I thought Rod Brind'Amour never got enough credit for that game one win. And one other thing, I was really impressed by Freddie Anderson. He hasn't had a lot of playoff success. He has not in his career. He has not. But what I would tell you, he looked calm. His rebound control was better than I remember it being. And he came up with a huge save late in the third, where if that goes in, that could go either way, and probably the Islanders' way because they had more momentum. Yeah. So a lot of credit to Freddie Anderson in that game. But Brind'Amour, again, he's in a big coaching matchup, way bigger than I think a lot of people credit Patrick Roy and his staff. And I can't say it enough. There's a Jacques Lemaire influence on this series that hasn't been mentioned at all. And you can see it. I had the privilege of coaching against Jacques and Larry Robinson. Mm-hmm. And so they came from that Canadian system. Mm-hmm. I coached against Pat Burns, the late Pat Burns, and he was influenced by that Canadian system. I'm watching the Islanders playing the neutral and going, oh, I've seen that before.
Yep. It's interesting, Pierre, too, that whole coaching system, that whole coaching style, it sort of is so made for the playoffs. Not sort of, it is so made for the playoffs, especially in today's game. you think back to when they came out of the nuclear season there, the 04-05 lockup here, and we got back in, and obviously the red line comes out, the game becomes much more offensive. And even now, we look at the regular season we just had. Look at all the offensive stats that were racked up, right? But it just always goes back to defense and physicality and goaltending in the playoffs. And those coaching philosophies that you're referencing there, I feel like will forever hold true. Like they can stand the test of time. They can stand the differences in the game, the styles, the rule changes. But when you get to the playoffs, you can still use that coaching style to win.
You saw it on Saturday night. You saw it with the Boston Bruins against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And one of the things, and again, I didn't hear it, and I watched two different broadcasts of that game.
Yep.
I watched the local feed with our friend Jack Edwards and Andy Brickley. And then I watched the national feed. And the big thing in that series so far has been when you watch Bertuzzi, you watch Domi, and you watch Matthews. And who's on the ice against them all the time?
Yeah.
It was Hampus Lindholm, and it was your boy, Brandon Carlo, who we've talked about a lot on this show.
Yep.
Underrated and not nearly appreciated.
He gets a goal.
How about the goal that he scored? What a pass by DeBrusk. It was a good play by DeBrusk and a nice finish.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing to me that really blew me away, Brandon Carlo's gap control in the neutral zone was amazing, Jimmy.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so that frustrates a guy like Bertuzzi. It frustrates a guy like Domi. And it really frustrates a guy like Matthews.
Yeah.
Those guys are critically important players. And what happens? You see what happens. They get crazy. They get squirrely.
Yeah. Did you see? Okay, so I want to just, all right, now that we're into that game, all right, let's just go right to the beginning, the opening face-off. Remember what happened?
Oh, yeah.
Go over there. Yeah. Okay, let's go back the day before when we had the great Scotty Bowman. And by the way, thanks to Jack Edwards as well. And big thank you to Scotty Bowman for joining us on the podcast. I mean, that was one of those episodes I'll remember forever. But we'll get into that later. But remember when I asked Scotty what he thought about how Brad Marchand is learning to balance the fine line of being himself and yet being a captain? That was example A right there. And Scotty nailed it. He said he's doing a great job at it. And that was it right there. Pierre, 5 years ago, Marchand's getting right into it with him there. Marchand bites on that.
Oh, for sure he does.
You know what I mean?
Come on, for sure he does.
That was huge. And then Domi's sitting there waiting. Well, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to get under his skin? And he couldn't. And all of a sudden, Domi, I feel like, and he looked this way the way he played because he ended up taking some dumb penalties. I feel like he felt that he lost his purpose in the game. Like he thought, okay, my goal out here is to get him in the box and to get under his skin and rattle him. And he realized right off the opening face-off that he was going to be unable to do that with Brad Marchand. And credit to Marchand for becoming what he's become over the years and now being the captain of the Boston Bruins.
Coaches all have philosophies. Everybody has their own. Doesn't mean that one is better than the other.
Yep.
Here's one thing I would tell you from having sat right next to the master, Scotty Bowman, the best bench coach in the history of the game.
Mm-hmm.
In that situation, on the road in Boston, wild audience, not starting Austin Matthews, Tyler Bertuzzi, who used to play in Boston, and Max Domi, who's an emotional player.
Yeah.
Not starting those three guys.
I would add your third line there.
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
Because you're playing right into the teeth of the matchup right away. So you're giving Montgomery easy fodder right from the start. Yep. So he gets last change. Remember I told you this with the Laviolette thing in Rempe. And I said, I know Laviolette, he's a really good coach, but he made a mistake there.
Yep.
He made a mistake when he started the kid.
Yep.
And he did. He made a mistake. But you know what, to his credit? He didn't make the same mistake when they went to Toronto, did he?
No.
He did not.
Nope.
So I'm going to say this right now. If Toronto starts Austin Matthews, Domi, and Bertuzzi today or tonight in Boston, I think it's a problem.
Yep. I'm with you. And by the way, so that game goes on, Pierre, and you talk about, we were talking about the coaching style before, Jacques Maher and all that, but you just talk about a team that I think we've had this discussion where you got to stay within your game plan. Mm-hmm. Don't let them dictate the game. Don't fall away. Don't add, just stay within that structure. I thought that out of maybe there's been a handful of games at most this year where the Bruins were that perfect in terms of doing that, where they just stayed within their structure and they just were in a zone and they didn't let anything else bother them. They didn't let the other team come in and affect any of that. And they just executed perfectly. I mean, that, like, if you're the coaching staff of the Boston Bruins and you're walking off the bench after that game, you got to be saying, wow. I mean, we couldn't ask for much more than that. We really couldn't. Now, it's one game, but still, you got to be happy with what you saw there if you're that coaching staff.
No, you're happy. The only constructive criticism I would have on that whole game, the third period.
Yes.
Sat back too much. There was too much passive resistance. There wasn't great puck management. Toronto had some opportunities. I'd give them full credit for that. But outside of that, I'd say, let's say, so it's a 60-minute game. I'm going to say for 47 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought they were really good.
Yeah.
So 47 out of 60. If they can get to 52 out of 60, they're in a good spot. Now, remember, at the start of the game, too, we haven't talked about this enough. Goaltending matters a ton in the playoffs.
And there were some big saves.
All you have to do is ask Colorado and Winnipeg. Goalie matters.
Oh, we'll get to that, Pierre. Don't worry.
We'll get there. But if you look at Swayman at the start of that game, Jimmy, the first 2 minutes, he was awesome, right? You agree?
Yep.
And then the fourth line's on the ice. Bad pinch by Edmondson. Reeves isn't there to back him up. 2-on-1. Beecher scores.
Yep.
So the goalie sets up the whole thing for them to take advantage of it.
Exactly. And another thing too, Pierre, where we've talked about this so many times, and you and I reference it, obviously, because I covered that team, but you were there on the ice. You know, the Game 7 Bruins Canucks way back in 2011. I know it's so long ago, but it still holds true. If you can have a fourth line that can go out in the beginning of a game and set the tempo in a playoff game, it's huge. And that's what that fourth line did with Boquist, Beecher, I mean, and Maroon with that big hit as well. I don't know if it was at the end of the first, the beginning of the second. I mean,
it wasn't the end of the first. You're spot on. Hey, listen, Patty Maroon has won 3 Stanley Cups.
There's a reason
he's probably looking at 7 to 11 minutes a game. Max. He knows. Not more and not less. He knows what he's looking at. So he has to identify every shift. So let's just say he's got 9 shifts.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. Maybe. He has to have at least a hit on half of his shifts. He had 6 hits.
Yes.
So no, but he's smart enough to know that.
Yeah.
You know how I'm not a big fan of analytics. So I don't know if you quantify that as analytics, but those are stats that coaches used to use. Like we had stats for Mario. If Mario had 5 shots on goal, you know what that would equate to in terms of points. And more times than not, it was 2.5 to 3 points if he got 5 shots on net. And my stat, if I were coaching Maroon, would be you're probably getting 9 to 10 shifts a game. You got to get at least a hit on half your shifts.
Yeah.
And if you do, that's a lot of hits.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, too, I reading all the comments after the game, too, Pierre, some of the guys saying he was very vocal as well. Like he hasn't wasted time coming in there. He knows, hey, these guys brought me here for a reason. They brought me here for the veteran experience. I'm sure when he got there, he met with the leaders on that team, the core in that dressing room. He said, look, I don't want to come in and, you know, take over here or anything, but this is how I usually am. Are you guys cool with it? I imagine that's how it goes, Pierre. You would know better than me, but they probably have a meeting of the minds and say, this is what I usually like to do. I want to help any way I can to be a leader and be vocal out there. But if I cross a line, if I'm stepping into your territory, just let me know. And I'm imagining that's what probably happened.
I would say you're right. I don't even have to pretend. I know you're right.
Yeah.
And I think the way you spoke about it, Jimmy, is so eloquent. It's really good. The one thing I'd say, this is important about Patty. He didn't have a big voice in St. Louis. His talking took place on the ice. Right. And if you remember the cup run in St. Louis, not so much Tampa, but the cup run in St. Louis, he was scoring big goals.
Yeah.
He scored some big goals in that run to the cup. I did every single game they played that playoff season, every single game. And I would tell you that he was probably the most underrated guy on that team.
He's pretty here when he talks to us. You look at him; he's such a big presence, right? He's such a big presence on the ice. But I love what you just said. He does his talking with his action because when we talk to him, he's very low spoken. He's very mellow tone, and it kind of caught me by surprise because I haven't dealt with him a lot. So when he got here, I'm thinking like this guy's going to be boisterous and everything, and he's just very chill, very like calm and relaxed. But it's almost like he's that. scary relaxed, if you get what I mean.
Sometimes
I don't know if you got a player you coach like that or no, but
the most quiet guys are sometimes the most dangerous.
yes.
But no, he was a good addition. Johnny Beecher, hats off to Johnny.
Yeah.
I thought Johnny played really well in that game. That's probably one of the best games he's played as an NHL player.
That's what Montgomery said.
Is that? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Jimmy
he said
that.
that's
I would just say from having watched them play. So then you got to give some credit to the guys in the American Hockey League down in Providence.
Mm-hmm.
And their chores with Johnny over the year.
It's twice. You went down twice this year, Pierre.
Yeah.
Remember that?
To me, the biggest thing, Brandon Carlo and Hampus Lindholm. And Lindholm made one mistake on the goal, on the one goal. But the biggest thing that I saw was their gap control in the neutral zone against those top players for Toronto. That's not fun to play against. If they establish that again tonight, you'll see it early in the game. If they establish that again tonight early, that's going to be problematic for Toronto.
Okay, so you are Sheldon Keefe right now, Pierre. How do you counter that? How do you get around that?
Well, first, I don't start my big boys.
Okay.
I'm starting some thump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm turning the game.
Ryan Reeves out there opening faceoff?
I probably wouldn't be afraid to. But so when you do that as a coach, it's really important that you legislate the rules for your guys. You don't worry about the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
You legislate the rules for your guys. And it's not yelling and screaming. It's just, here's what I expect from you on the first shift. We're going to win the faceoff. We're going to get it deep. You're going to go after X, Y, or Z. You're not giving up an on-man rush. You're going to establish 30 minutes of zone time, and then we're going to start the flow, and they won't know who we're putting up next. So we're going to make it an uncomfortable matchup game for them in game 2, because game 1, we just gave them the matchup. We're not giving them the matchup. Yep. And you guys remember when we talked before the series and we talked about the importance of puzzle? Remember the coach used the term?
Yes. Yeah.
Putting pieces to the puzzle in place?
Yep.
And I said they better have a puzzle figured out on Austin Matthews. They showed their hand.
Yeah.
So now the coach for Toronto has to counter.
Yes.
And if he doesn't, that's on him.
Yep. I'm with you. You go with the same goalie?
If I'm Toronto?
Yeah.
Honestly, no. I'll tell you why.
I don't either.
Because if he starts tonight and he doesn't play well, the biggest game of the year for Toronto is game 3 in Toronto, and I've done a lot of big games in Toronto. That's a tough place for a guy like Joseph Wall, who's the backup goalie, to go in and play.
Yeah, I agree.
When your season's on the line. So rather than put him in there in game 3, I'm putting him in game 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. Don't forget too, Pierre. I don't know if this matters. You could tell everyone better than me, but the kid's got some experience playing in that building.
Well, no, it matters. Hey, it matters. And I'll tell you, one of the big things was 2011.
Yep.
The longer on, they put Corey Schneider in.
Yep.
Corey Schneider had played beanpot games in that building.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter, Jimmy. The sight lines for goalies, the boards, the glass. Yep. No, you're not wrong on that, Jimmy. You're spot on. You're spot on.
Bring him in there. Boston College kid. Why not? I'd put him in there as well. Now, the other question before we move on, we'll stick to the goaltending because that's the $1 million question every day.
You're not going to like what I have to say.
Do you stick to the rotation?
No.
Okay. Why not?
You're mad at me. It's okay.
I'm not mad at you. I just think they're gonna. I agree with you, Pierre. I ride Swayman. He's no good.
Hard. So when you've seen guys win the cup, and you've been with guys that have won the cup. Tommy Barrasso won us our cup. I watched Jonathan Quick win cups for LA. I saw Corey Crawford win cups in Chicago. You don't take guys out of rhythm.
No.
Not one size fits all. It can change.
Right.
And it's worked for Boston.
Uh-huh.
But you're asking what I would do. I would stay with the goalie that won me game 1.
I'm with you. Here's the other reason why. Okay. Now, look, if they don't and they go to a rotation, I'm not going to knock them because that's what they said.
No, I agree.
That's their choice. And I don't think it's the end all be all. However, much similar to what you just said about putting Wall in a tough situation. If you start Samsonov now, and then you throw Wall in game 3, down 2-0 in front of that crowd that will turn on you in a heartbeat, The reverse, I think, is true. Is if you start, you go Ullmark right now.
Ullmark.
Yeah, you go Ullmark right now, and then he loses, and then you go back. I just think, and then you go in there, and it's 1-1. I feel like you've really thrown the whole team out of rhythm, not just the goalies. You've thrown the team out of rhythm, and now you're going in with a chance to be down 2-1 heading into Game 4. So I feel like you got to stick with Swayman right now.
No, and there's one other, and that's all really good reasoning, good deductive reasoning from you. There's one other reason. I don't believe Swayman has lost to Toronto this whole year.
He has not.
So,
he's 4-0-0.
Yeah, so I don't know.
He's in your head.
I would think.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if I'd want to give a free pass to the opposition.
Yep, I'm with you. And the other thing too, Pierre, here's the other thing I don't get. And look, I don't know if this is crazy to think about this, but we'll go back to the trade deadline. We all know whatever team it was. We heard so many stories, but there was a team, there was a trade in place, and Ullmark vetoed it. So here's my question to the Bruins. If you were that close to trading Linus Ullmark, then aren't you basically saying that Jeremy Swayman is your guy and that you'd want to go forward with him? So then why would you not go with him after the performance he just had?
That's a really good point.
All right. So we'll see what happens. I have no – I'll tell you, I'm going to give you – I'm agreeing with you. They should go with Swayman. Unfortunately, though, my gut feel goes against what we're saying. I do think they're going to go with Ullmark. I don't think that's right, but –
yeah. Now, you talked about Ullmark, and you were the first person to have it, so hats off to you, no pun intended. Could Colorado have been one of those teams? You think they could have used him last night? Just wondering.
All right. Well, let's get to the Sunday games. We'll go right into that game. You know what?
Don't you think we have to do that one first?
Yeah, we do, because that's what everyone's talking about in the comments section, and that is the buzz today. Now, here's what I have to say, Pierre, and as I am your social media monitor,
yes,
kind of scouring the social media feeds, I don't know if people watch games, Pierre. They definitely, apparently, not enough people are watching us at times, or at least haven't paid attention when we've spoken about Colorado. What have we been saying for 5 months now? Goaltending's
an issue in Colorado. It's a big issue. We've been talking about it since the end of November.
Yeah, and you didn't just say an issue. Like you said, big issue a lot. You said, no, this is a scary thing. Like they have all the arsenal to go on a deep run if they have a goalie. And they never got that goalie. And here we are. And Pierre, I don't know if you saw how much you were watching the pregame. I was watching before they got on.
I didn't watch any of the pregame. Okay. I just watched the games.
They went to they were in the locker room. You know, they do those shots of teams in the locker room. And the camera pans in on Georgiev, right? And you know when you can tell when a guy's in a zone? Like most goalies are kind of in there.
Everybody's different, but most of them are just staring and they're focused.
Yeah. He's shifty all over the place, kind of looking around. His eyes are going everywhere, and he's not focused, and he kept looking down at the ground. And then he come up, and he looked off, like he did not look comfortable. And then you go to Hellebuck, and he's just tunnel vision.
Yeah. He wasn't great either last night, though.
No, but you know what? For a 6-goal game, he wasn't that bad either.
No, but I'll tell you one thing. That McKinnon shot, that's got to get stopped.
Yeah, but
that's right through the wicket.
Here's the thing. How many times do you think Hellebuck's going to let in 6 goals?
Oh, I don't think any time the rest of the series.
So that was their chance to get him, but your goal worked.
The shot dynamic was crazy. It was almost 2-1 in favor of Colorado. But no, to me,
they missed their chance there.
The guy that stood out, I don't know if you agree, but there were so many heroes that really didn't get points in that game. But the guy that stood out, first of all, Kyle Connor, we've talked about him for a long time. The goal scoring, it's great. He's unbelievable. Adam Lowry was fantastic in that game.
He was.
There's no analytic equation for how that's an eye test player, man.
An eye test player, his leadership, everything.
Shot blocking, physicality, face-off play, creative plays through the neutral zone, determined penalty. Like I can go down board play.
Yep.
Stuff that they don't equate. There's no equation for it.
How about our guy Morrissey?
Well, he's pretty good.
Wow.
If he was playing in any other market, and I'm really good friends with one of the owners in Winnipeg, okay? Very good friends. I'll give him a shout out. Mark Chipman. I try to have him on the show. He wasn't comfortable because he's not the coach or the GM. We get it. It's a playoff. We totally get it. But we've had this talk about Morrissey. And you know what I feel? If he's playing in any other market, and it's not a knock on Winnipeg, I like going there for hockey. I really do. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I've been there a lot, both in the old rink and the new rink.
What a cool environment too last night.
Oh, it's fantastic. You see all the people lined up. They're white out, and it's
in the streets.
But if Morrissey's any other city in the league.
Oh, he's a superstar.
100% superstar.
Easily too. What about Kyle Connor? Another guy. I think,
imagine if he was
about him more, but
they used a first round pick on him, kid out of Michigan.
Yep.
And he's a tremendous player. Tremendous player. So lots of respect for their amateur scouts in Winnipeg. A lot of those guys are homegrown players. They really are. They've done a really good job there. Now on defense, they've made some trades. Like bringing in Brendan Dillon was smart. He's a nasty piece of business. Here's the one thing that could affect Winnipeg. Sandberg and Stanley is their last tandem.
Yep.
Those guys struggled.
Yeah, they did.
Jimmy, they struggle, and they don't get a lot of minutes. So you got to keep your top four healthy, and you got to make sure your top four get a lot of rest on the off days, because you know what's coming the next game. Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Brandon Duhaime, Yakov Trenin, they're going after those guys.
They're going to bring the nasty.
They're going to turn it into a street fight in game 2. And I don't mean fighting. I mean hitting.
Yeah,
like they're going to whack some guys.
Taking those extra hits when they can get.
They're going to whack some guys, and so they got to be ready for that. And I don't know if that third tandem from Winnipeg, even though they're big guys, both of them are big guys, I don't know if they can play elevated minutes against that Colorado team. I just don't know. That's the one thing that I took out of that game yesterday. Besides all the other stuff, I'm like, okay, they got to be better than that, and if they're not, it's going to be a problem.
Okay, so we know that's one of the game plans that Bednar will have, but what do you do about the goaltending, Pierre?
I don't know, Jimmy. Like I don't know.
I don't even know. I'll confess, I don't know enough about the backup. I really don't. Like, I don't know what to give you.
I'm telling you, I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's my best answer, because I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to lie to the viewers.
It's a telltale sign too, Pierre, when you hear players saying that famous saying when they say, every mistake we had went to the back of the net. That's them saying, he's got to make a couple saves here and there. Like, we're going to make mistakes. That's why you're there.
I got to tell you this story. One time I was between the benches doing a big playoff game, and a team that was a favorite wasn't getting good goaltending. And during a TV timeout, the captain came down the bench, and he said, I'll never forget it. He says, are we ever going to get a save from this guy?
Ooh.
And that team lost.
Wow.
The team lost. And it shows you, like, the guys were playing their butts off, and the goalie wasn't playing well. But he came down the bench, and I heard him say, is this guy ever going to make a save? Never made a save, and they never won the series.
See, it's just
it's what you're saying.
I don't get why this wasn't addressed. It's just
I think they tried.
I mean, they tried. I
think it was addressed, Jimmy, and I think they didn't
get the guy they wanted. They
didn't get the guy they wanted, and I think the guy they might have wanted wanted to take the trade because he had a no move.
Yep.
Or he had a no trade.
Yeah, he could be on the ice.
The one guy I would say, and we talked about this, both you and I did, because we like him as a lot, is Jake Allen.
Yeah.
And we thought that was going to be a good backup plan for them. Jake Allen went to Jersey. It was too little too late. And it wasn't because Fitzy didn't try to get a goalie. He tried to get Markstrom.
Yeah.
And they couldn't make that work. So then he says, well, I'll go get Jake Allen. Well, the damage was already done. They were out. So Jake went down there and just spun his tires. Now, if you were to ask me who would I play in game 2 if I had Jake Allen or I had Georgiev,
Jake
Allen's in. Kid, you got the ball. Go run with it.
Yep. I'm with you. All right, let's go to the early game, though, Pierre. A great game. I thought it was one of the better games of the weekend was Florida and Tampa Bay. And you said the point to me earlier when we were prepping for the podcast today. You said, look, what do we call it? We said the power play for Tampa Bay is the big thing. If they can stay out of the box, then Florida's going to be okay. But look, I mean, you look at their power play, it was successful. And if like you said, if there was one more power play there, we might have seen overtime.
So my line on Tampa, when you play them, you've got to take 3 penalties or less.
Yep.
You take 3 or more. 3 is kind of the Mendoza line. You're playing with fire if you take 3. If you take 3 or less, you're probably going to win. You take 3 or more, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
So they took 2 penalties yesterday.
Thank
Tampa
God.
Tampa was 1 for 2.
What a shot by
that would be the number one thing. I'd be telling Bennett, I'd be telling Cousins, I'd be telling Kachuk, I'd be telling Ekblad, I'd be telling Montour, fellas, we know how tough you
Don't
are.
get caught up in the BS.
Do not get involved in the after whistle stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Scotty talked about it on the eye test on Friday.
Yes.
We used to bring the officials and say, what about the scrums? What are you going to do about the scrums? So a coaching staff, and especially a veteran guy like Scotty, he has, street cred with the referees. He could get them to say, you know what, we're going to call the scrums tight. Well, if you know that and the other team doesn't, you got a huge advantage.
Yes.
So I would say, because Paul Maurice has a lot of experience. Cooper doesn't need to worry about that with his team because they're not like that. This is not that kind of team.
Yeah.
And Yanni Gord's in Seattle. Blake Coleman's in Calgary. And Maroon's not there anymore. Like the guys they had that were like that, Goudreau's in New York. They don't have those guys anymore. So it's a different team. It's just different. But Maurice probably told those guys, we can't. As much as we love you to do it, you can't. We can't play in the playoffs where we played the last 10 games of the regular season. We can't.
And by the way, on Tampa, I want to give you credit too. I said, who would be an X factor? Hagel.
Yeah.
There you go. He had a good game.
He's no fun to play against. Well, you got to answer this for me. And I'm not trying to pick on Kyle Davidson and the Chicago Blackhawks, okay? Because I think they got some good pieces there and it will get better. And I got friends of mine that play there. And I like – and some guys on this coaching staff, I like them.
Mm-hmm.
What was the rush to trade Brandon Hagel? Like, why were you in a rush to move him? He couldn't help in the rebuild?
I don't get it.
35 years old.
I don't get it, Pierre. They'll try to say cap issues, but I mean,
oh, please stop.
I know.
Come on. If you got cap issues with that team, you got a major problem.
You got huge problems.
Here, I'm telling you, I'm not trying to start any trouble. If I were Seth Jones, and I've said this to you on the air, I think, and off the air, if I were Seth Jones, I need to know the direction of the team going forward.
Yeah. Because time's running out for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's an elite player, Jimmy.
Yeah, and I feel bad. He's just never really gotten –
look at started in Nashville, goes to Columbus, So his best year, I'm going to say, you'd have to look it up. The first COVID year, when they were in the pod in Toronto, Columbus was in the pod. That guy was unbelievable. I think he played 48 or 49 minutes in an overtime game. He was crazy. I was sitting in Edmonton watching, going, "Oh my gosh, is this guy ever good?"
Yeah,
that's 3 years ago, Jimmy.
I know. Now he's just sort of buried.
Nobody even knows he's in the league right now, unless you're his parents or the Chicago Blackhawks. You don't know he's in the league.
We'll see what happens there. Pierre, we move on with the games yesterday. Just what a great day of hockey, too. The Rangers and Capitals, you referenced Rempe earlier. He gets the first goal. I love how they were a team that had that fourth line out there.
Laviolette was smart. So Peter knows how, and he does do it. He plays the fourth line a lot.
Strategic.
And, the biggest thing is Goudreau's really good, and Vesey's obviously – Vesey won the Hobie. Like, nobody talks about this. Jimmy Vesey won the Hobie Baker. It's not like he doesn't know how to score and make plays.
Yep.
He is a dynamic offensive player. He's had to change his game a little bit, and you know what he can do that nobody appreciates? He knows how to fight. He really knows how to fight. And, again, I go back to watching when he played at Belmont Hill. So at prep school player.
Yep.
And like, Jimmy Vesey's a really good player. So you got him on a fourth line. Barclay Goudreau is a tremendous fourth line player. When Tampa were winning cups, he was playing on the third line. He's not a fourth liner there. He's a third line player there. and then Rempe.
Yeah,
How could you not smile and be happy for that?
I know.
Even if you're a Capitals fan,
Yeah,
you look at this guy and you go,
You got to relate with Tom Wilson.
who's having more fun than Matt Rempe?
I know.
Isn't that what it's all about? Like,
Yeah,
honestly.
and Pierre, you look too, and I know it's only been a short time, but still, the amount of development that he's had in this short stint in the NHL so far, kudos to him. Kudos to that coaching staff. Kudos to
Steve Smith and Paul Mara. Smith and Paul Mara down in Hartford. Those guys better get a little pump up from Chris. They've done a really good job.
Learn. That's what I love about if look, kids can come in, but you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to acknowledge mistakes and correct them. And for the most part, he's done that for the Rangers, and I love that, and that's why it's working out for him right now.
Yeah, and they're not overplaying him.
Nope.
He's playing his 9 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like Maroon. Maroon maybe a little less, but that's kind of where it's at. The thing for the Rangers, they didn't bite yesterday.
No.
So when Washington tried to get it a little helter-skelter when they fell behind, the Rangers didn't bite. They could have gone after Wilson for the hits on Zibanejad. They didn't. They kind of did, but they weren't crazy. Do you know what I mean? They didn't take penalties because of it.
No.
So they didn't bite on it. Like last year against Jersey, they bought on some, they bit, and they got embarrassed in that series. They're not going to do that again this year.
No, that was a good, organized, textbook type win by the Rangers. Let's go ahead to the late game last night, Pierre. The Vancouver Canucks now. Sorry, I felt like I was going to sneeze there. Nashville kind of had this game for a while. I mean, the first 2 periods, it's looking pretty good for Nashville. And then this guy who for some reason he didn't think was good enough in Toronto comes out of nowhere.
Dakota
Joshua.
He was good enough to play. Yeah, he was good enough to play at Ohio State. He was good enough to play a little in St. Louis after Toronto got rid of him. St. Louis got rid of him too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's moved around, but he had 18 goals during the regular season. Yep. He has 2 in 1 playoff game.
Yeah.
A great story. Now, there's one thing that you brought up today that was really smart.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, tribute to you. You're doing your work.
Yes.
I'm proud of you. And Scotty will be very proud of you because he knows he gave you a little shot the other day. You got to do your work, Kenny. You did your work on this. Dakota Joshua needs something that we all would love to have, a long-term contract. He doesn't have a contract for
28 years old.
He needs a contract.
Into his own. His agent right now is feeling a little like Jerry McGuire if this keeps up. That's all.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Cha-ching.
Yeah, he'll be good. Now, you know what's interesting about their team? We talk about Rick all the time. Dickey's our guy. Creative coaching again. He's not afraid to put Teddy Bluger on the ice at the end of the game because he knows what Teddy.
Great minds, Pierre. I was going to bring him up.
Right, Jimmy? He knows what Teddy's going to bring to the party. He's seen it in Pittsburgh. He doesn't need to worry about him. He trusts him. So creative coaching, they didn't panic. They got Thatcher back. Demko was really good. Now, that's not to poo-poo what Nashville did, but this is my concern for Nashville, Jimmy.
Yep, I know where you go.
If they don't get more offense from O'Reilly, from Nyquist, and from Forsberg, they can't win. They can't win the series. So those guys, O'Reilly scored. He scored a power play goal yesterday. But go look at their plus minuses. They were all -3 yesterday.
I know.
The whole line was -3. So they can't.
They're top heavy.
Loading up on them. What they're doing is they're forcing them to play defense, and then they're playing a defense matchup against them. So that's Dickey learned how to do that. It's just a different way to coach, but he knows how to do it, and that's what they're doing. So they need. The series could change when they get to Nashville and they get last change.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it will, but it could. But if those guys don't score, Jimmy, 5-on-5, I don't know how Nashville can win the series. I just don't know.
You know what else I saw too, and I'm glad I was going to bring Bluger up in this sense. I saw that, not that they hadn't done this year, Pierre. That's why they had such a great regular season, but just I think it's so much more important in the playoffs. They seem to exude Rick Tocchet. Like they had his identity out there. You know what I mean? Like the way they were playing made me think about Rick Tocchet when he was a player. That's what I saw a bit with them last night.
Well, no, so the two of the main guys on their bench, one is Adam Foote, one's Rick Tocchet. One played defense, one played forward. You know what? They both
hard-ass players.
The same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They did.
Yeah. And I felt that, and that's what they're going to need. And I was really impressed with that. I know a lot of people had question marks saying, okay, were these guys just kind of a regular season, not fluke, but people were underestimating them heading in. I thought that was a very well-balanced game by the Canucks. Was very impressed with Demko too, Pierre. Thatcher,
well, there was one save in the first period. I'm forgetting who it was against, and I apologize to that player from Nashville, but it was a heck of an opportunity. And Thatcher moved from his left to his right and shut it down with his right pad. It was an unbelievable play. Very athletic, and it showed that he wasn't hurt. Like, there was no carryover from his injury.
Yep. Yeah, it was good. It was a good game all around, and man, that place was rocking too. There's nothing like Canadian cities in the playoffs. I'll tell you.
There's some pretty good U.S. cities
there
too.
Is, but that was awesome. That was awesome. I thought.
Winnipeg was really good.
Yeah,
I thought
Boston was good. Boston was really good.
Boston was excellent. Yeah. New York was really good. The Rangers were really good.
Yeah.
Carolina game 1 was good.
Yeah.
Carolina, they get them going there with that hurricane wind-up thing, and it worked pretty good there.
You ever do that, Pierre?
I never did. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
So you know what's pretty cool? We have a guy from the Hurricanes coming on tomorrow.
We do. That's a good segue, my friend.
Trip Tracy.
Trip Tracy. Really looking forward to that. He knows his stuff. He's part of the fabric of that team, Pierre, for so long. He really has been.
He really is.
Carolina.
Here's the thing about Tripp that a lot of people, the pundits, don't remember. Tripp was a really good player. Mm-hmm. He was a goalie. He played at Harvard. He was drafted by Philadelphia Flyers. He was a legit prospect. It obviously never worked out for him at the pro level. But he was a really talented kid. I remember watching him in prep school. He was a kid that came from Michigan, just north of Detroit, and he was a good player. He really was. But pumped to have him on. Yeah, it's going to be great. So we'll talk some Carolina with them, with Tripp tomorrow. So we're going to go to our question in a second, but let me remind everyone about our sponsors. If you're looking to bet some action tonight on the games, there's plenty of action out there to look at. You got to go to CBET. Let's pull that up right now, folks. What do we got here? Get that. Are we still offering that refund? Yes, it is there. You get up to $3,000 Canadian back on your first bet. I mean, what else can you want? You're basically getting a free bet plus credit. Go there right now. I'll give you a little one I'm liking today. I'm looking at the Bruins Leafs, and I like Brad Marchand to score a goal for the Bruins. So check out what you can get on value for that. Marchand had a very good game, as we said, discipline-wise, but he also had 2 assists. He's in the zone right now, and I think he's going to be a key factor tonight for the Bruins. And then, of course, our other sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport. Moving pieces and delivering peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that's sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And hey, maybe Dakota Joshua might need TCS in the offseason after free agency. One never knows, but want to thank Michael Mason and everybody at TCS. They've been outstanding since they've come on board, so thank you very much.
Good stuff. All right, let's get over to the questions right now. We got a lot of them, and of course, I think a lot of them are going to be about that game that we were discussing there earlier, the big one, Colorado and Winnipeg. But let's go. Michael Sullivan. Hey, Mike, what's going on? Murph, long time no see. First instinct, Sway or Allmark for game 2? As I said, I think it should be Sway, but my instinct is Allmark. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski. Does McFarland and Sakic see the goaltending problem with the Avs? They are so good at what they do, but I just wonder sometimes. They did so much with the roster at the deadline, it stumps me they left out goal. As we said, they didn't leave out goal. They just didn't get it done.
Yeah, I don't think they left it out. I just think they prioritized one player, and they weren't able to get that player. But the fallback, and I don't know whether they even talked about it or not, I really think there was a fallback position they could have had, and they just weren't able to do it.
Yeah. I don't think there wasn't any even try, though. I'm with Pierre there. So.
I agree. I think they tried.
All right, next question. Samuel Matei, curious what you guys thought of Kucherov yesterday 5-on-5. To me, he wasn't moving, activating in the play enough. Excuse me. And he seemed to be waiting for something to happen.
I didn't think he was the most explosive Kucherov I've seen over the year, but how about the pass that he made to Stamkos on the power play goal? That was pretty special.
Wow.
So, I mean, look, no player is perfect, just like there's no human that's perfect. We all make mistakes. But do I think Kuch could have been better? Yeah, he probably could have been better, but man, oh man, I mean, he's
got to know, though, they're honing in on him, too. I mean,
getting a lot of attention, too. He needs a little help.
Exactly. All right, next question. Enter tap, Jimmy and Pierre. Colorado is great at activating their D-men on offense, but they were caught many times with the odd man rushes. Great point. Do they back off with this strategy moving forward?
Go ahead, Jimmy.
I think so, but I just think that right now they're so occupied with the goaltending. And I think, you know what? Now that I think about it, Pierre, just talking about little intricacies of the game there, I want to ask you, too, when you have something like that weighing on you, and that is sort of like a big Achilles heel right now, how much does that affect the players executing in other areas of the game because you're so worried about that? Does it play a role? Is it that much of a distraction?
I think it is. I really do. I think it is, Jimmy. But, you know, I wouldn't bail on their strategy. Taves is obviously really good. McGuire's really good. I don't know if it was brought up or not because I was going all over the place, but not having Sammy Girard makes a difference.
Yep.
Not having Bowen Byron. I know they got Middlestat. I get it. I understand why they had to get Middlestat. They didn't have somebody they thought internally that could play there. But I asked the question only because I saw the kid play so much at Cornell. And he did some really good things when he was playing in Colorado this year. He's playing for their American League team. I don't know if he's heard or not. Sam Malinsky. He's a great player at Cornell. Really good player at Cornell. And he signed with them as an undrafted player last year and had a really good run in the American League. Had a great start to the year this year. They played him in NHL games. He looked really comfortable. So I've got to do a better job of knowing whether he's hurt or not. But I thought he would have been a player that would have fit in well in a series like this where you have to be under control. Malinsky's a player that's under control.
All right. Well noted. Next question. Jason Logan. Hey, Jay. Hey, guys, what do you think is up with Ovi? Is the game starting to catch up with him or just because he's on the third line and it's not sitting well with him? I mean, Jay, I love him and all, but if Ovi didn't prove to you that the game isn't catching up to him with the season he had, come on. I mean, he didn't have the best game, but neither did the rest of the team. I think that's a little too strong. I think he could have been better, but I don't think it's a matter of his age. I just think he needs to have a better
didn't have a shot on Norton in game one, so that's a bit of a problem. But I'm going to say this in defense of Ovechkin, and you brought up a name before, Kuznetsov's playing in Carolina, and Backstrom's not playing.
Yep.
And, you know, he had an amazing relationship with both those guys on the ice. And I know the relationship with Backstrom off the ice was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a problem, too.
And he still got 30 goals.
Yeah, they don't have any player internally that can replace Nicky Backstrom or replace Kuznetsov. So they're going through a mini bit of a retooling. The fact they made the playoffs is amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. So I wouldn't go that hard on Ovechkin. I really wouldn't.
All right, next question. Randy Workman. Jimmy and Pierre, would you re-sign Monahan if you were the Jets? Let's see what happens here in the playoffs.
So this is a reason why I might not. I need to know what their plan is long-term for Cole Perfetti. Do they plan on playing Perfetti as a winger or do they plan on playing Perfetti as a center? Because that saves you a whack of cash on the cap. Because I'm not saying Perfetti's as good as Monahan yet. He's not. But they're similar in terms of how they approach the game. So I would want to know. I need to know how they would like to do that long term.
That's a great point. You know, I've been thinking about that too, Pierre. There's been times where I think just because of the cap, I don't think it pretty much like he hasn't been able to get in the lineup.
No, that again begs the question. I had the privilege of coaching that kid when he was young, and I'm a big fan of him.
Beast.
He's a talented kid, and he's a pure hockey addict. He loves hockey.
Yeah.
So I know work habits aren't a problem, and he's extremely coachable. And I can speak to that personally because I coached the kid in different events. So I would need to know about him before I say, yeah, they should re-sign Monahan, or no, they shouldn't. I just need to know what they're going to do with him.
All right, next question. Mike, I'm sure both of you have seen Jake Allen on the panel. He is such a smart guy, really impressed. I can see him being part of the management team in the near future. Thoughts? I'll confess, I didn't get to see him. I have heard about it. I saw some clips on Twitter, but I was not watching that broadcast. But from what I know of covering Jake over the years, and I've known him back to his days when he was playing in the Q with Montreal, when Montreal had a junior team there, he's a very intelligent guy, very well-spoken. So, if he wanted to, I do think he has a career in broadcasting.
He can hit the ball far too on the golf course.
Oh, yeah?
He's a tremendous person.
He is a nice guy.
Very intelligent.
Yeah.
One thing, and this is just really important, players that are just near the end of their careers, usually the first 3 to 5 years, they're really good, whether it's broadcasting or working in management or scouting. Where it becomes more difficult, and this is the test of time theory, how hard are they prepared to work to stay relevant with the players that are coming after them in the league? And so that's the one caveat. And it doesn't matter. I'm not saying Jake would do that, but that's the one thing I would tell you about all former players and even coaches, former players and coaches that get out. Sometimes they don't want to stay current. It's hard to stay current. You got to work really hard at it.
You do. I know. Just being a reporter, I know that. All right, next question. All right, Gally asks, the Leafs got bigger and tougher, but it seems that it backfired last game. Was it coaching the issue in that game?
They didn't try to break the matchups down, though, so I'm a little frustrated watching that. They played right into their hands in game one. I made the point before, Gally, I wouldn't have started Austin Matthews or Bertuzzi or Domi. I would not have started them. I would have made Montgomery chase to get the matchup against those guys. The plan, I could tell you right now, and Jimmy, we talked about it before the series started.
Yeah.
The key puzzle piece is how you're going to shut down Austin.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. And so first game, they had Hampus Lindholm and Brandon Carlo and Brad Marchand. Jake DeBrusk played on the right side, and Charlie Coyle.
Yeah.
They basically played 5 men to stop one.
And the other thing, too, and I mean, Keefe was very critical of them after the game, too, is discipline. And look, right off the bat, it was clear the Bruins were going to be disciplined and they weren't going to bite on that stuff. So why do you keep trying? Like, if you get the answer right away, hey, that's good. Now you know what kind of game it's going to be. You're not going to get them to go into that stuff. So tonight, they need to just forget about that. If I'm the Leafs, just focus on you. Don't try and get under their skin right now. Just do your thing, and maybe that will get under their skin.
You're never in trouble in a series till you lose on home ice. Okay?
Yep.
I've been saying that a long time, and I've always tried to really follow that philosophy. I think it's different with Toronto.
Yeah.
This is a really important game, too, for them.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I mean, if they go in there and roll over like they did on Saturday night, I think it's a problem.
I don't see them rolling over, but I don't know if they're going to win. So we'll see. All right, next question. Enter tap. Do you see any circumstances where the Islanders win the series? What will it take?
They can't play from behind. They got to get the lead in every game.
The options to do that.
If you have to chase the game, it's a problem. But if they get the lead because of the way they're playing in the neutral zone, they can cause some problems in the series. They really can. And if they can get to Anderson and plant the seed of doubt in his mind and goal, maybe they got a chance. But
their goal is going to be huge too.
If they don't get the lead in the game, I think it's just too tough for them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next question. Kevin Lavoie, which rebuilding team is closest to the playoffs? I say the Canadians. Oh, Red Wings too.
I was just going to say Detroit.
Yeah.
And here's one thing I have significant internal knowledge of. I would not discount Ottawa. I would not discount Ottawa. I think there's enough really proud people there internally. I'm talking about players. If they select the right coach and they bring the right atmosphere to the dressing room right from the start, they could cause some problems. But I'm with you on Detroit, and I think Montreal is going to surprise a whack of people next year.
What about with Ottawa, though, Pierre, the goaltending? Does that need to be upgraded?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know one thing.
Okay.
It would have been if I.
That's the only thing I'd be worried about there.
That's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say.
Considering everything we just said about Colorado. So
Here's one name you don't know. Levi Merilainen. He's
okay.
playing for Belleville right now. He's really good. He's a Finnish kid, played in the World Junior for him a couple years ago, played in the Ontario Hockey League, went back to Finland. He's in Belleville right now, helped get them into the playoffs. He and Mad Sogard, long-term now, Jimmy, they're both very good prospects. They're elite-level prospects for Ottawa and goal. So that's
Yep. Okay.
That's a pot. Now, the negative part is I don't think they're ready for next year.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
They trade for a veteran. We'll see. Yeah. All right. Next question. DJB, does Lucic ever play another game in the NHL again? I don't know.
That's such a good question. I don't know either.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I don't know.
Yeah. And I want to say too quickly on that. I'm just basing this on a hockey. Forget all the other stuff right now. I'm just basing on the hockey point of view. Pierre, I was skeptical of the move when the Bruins brought him back too. I just don't know. I love everything he did throughout his career, and he was such a key part of the Bruins way back when. But there's just so many more younger players coming up that do what he does. That's why I fear for him, not just him, other guys his age in that situation. So that's all I'll say.
You made a really good point about the fourth line in 2011.
Yeah.
And you think about Danny Pye, and you think about Sean Thornton, you think about Gregory Campbell, the Merlot line. And they were all really important to that team. You know it. You said it. Milan was playing at a different level then.
Yeah. In 2013 he was too.
He was. And that's 11 years ago.
You know?
That's like a century in hockey.
I know.
11 years. So I don't know. And
players that play that game here.
I have a show, like I care about the guy.
Yeah. And it's hard for when you play that style, right? To just keep it going for so long.
Yeah, didn't take any nights off. I know that.
Yep. All right. Next question. Gally, what series do you think will be an upset? Since every year you have an upset in the first round.
I think Winnipeg will beat Colorado.
Yeah. We've been adamant on that.
I don't know if people consider that an upset or not, because Winnipeg's
interesting here, right? So I'd say about 4 weeks ago, people were considering that an upset. But I think when Winnipeg went in and beat them 7-0, was that like 10 days ago? That changed a bit. But no, Winnipeg, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't see any other ones when I think about it. It's a great question. I don't think the Kings are going to beat the Oilers, Pierre. Do you?
No.
Right? Okay. So
here's what has to happen in that series, okay? If you're Edmonton, you get right after Anze Kopitar, you make his life miserable. You get right after Drew Doughty, you make his life miserable. And you jam Cam Talbot all the time. All the time. You accomplish those three things, you can end that series very quickly.
Yep. I agree. And then what about the another game today that's just starting up, another series, I should say, Vegas and the Stars. Vegas is technically an underdog in this series, even though they're the Stanley Cup champs. But, of course, Dallas finished with the best record in the West. I could see Vegas winning that series. I think that series is going deep here. I'd see 6 or 7.
It's going deep.
Yeah. I don't think it's a lock. Dallas is winning.
I don't think it's a lock either, but Dallas is good. I think Ottinger could have a real breakout. And if Ottinger has a breakout and Aiden Hill's not better than what he was this
They're actually going Logan Thompson, Pierre.
They're going to play Logan, so that speaks to what I'm talking about with
there you go.
Aiden. Then that's a problem. You got to win the goaltending matchup in that series. That's going to be a big part of it. The goaltending matchup in that series is going to be huge.
Ooh, Pierre, this is coming across the wire right now. From your Twitter monitor has got an update for you here.
Okay.
Elliot Friedman reporting 2 minutes ago, hearing momentum building for Lindy Ruff to return to coach the Buffalo Sabres.
That'd be cool.
Interesting.
They would give them – so what's the one thing we talked about with Buffalo? They need to have an identity, correct?
An identity, yep.
Need an identity. They need a rough, tough identity. I don't say rough as a pun either. Rough, not Ruf.
I love puns. It's okay, Pierre.
I know. You're a wordsmith. You're good at it. I would say that'd be something I could digest. If I were a fan in Buffalo, I could digest that as well. I think the staff would be electrifying because Lindy's a popular guy and he wouldn't have a hard time getting really good people to go there.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be probably a smart move by Kevin Adams because it'd take the spotlight off of him.
Exactly. And
Lindy's popular guy in Buffalo.
He's a very popular guy in Buffalo.
And he should be. He goes back there all the time. He's been leading their community. I like him. I've always liked Lindy. And you know what? He's a Roger Nielsen disciple. And Roger always valued tough guys. And I know Lindy values tough guys. And I think Buffalo's a team that has to have that. I
thought of you, Pierre. There was a video going around Twitter, I guess, after the game last night. The fans are celebrating in Vancouver. And you know how they have the Roger Nielsen statue out there?
Yeah.
One of them climbed up to put one of the white rally towels on the stick. It was great. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt.
I remember my first ever NHL head coaching win was in Florida. Roger was the coach. Lindy was an assistant.
Oh, yes.
Florida Panthers.
Love that story.
And Roger was mad at me because I was messing around with the linesmen on the line changes. And Roger really was a matchup coach. Like, he really was. So I'd always change a little bit late because they wouldn't put their And Roger started screaming and yelling, and he was yelling at me. And at the end of the game, he goes over to nothing personal right there. I said, no, Roger, it's okay.
Yeah.
I get. And he goes, Bowman taught you all that stuff, didn't he? I said, yeah, he did.
Yep. Good stuff. And thanks to Sammy, by the way, for pointing out the rough scoop from Friedman there. All right, we got time for a couple more here. Let's go. Canadians, eh? Jimmy, Pierre, do you guys agree or disagree with the notion that Michkov is overrated thanks in part to flawed analytical models, KHL quality? I can't say anything about him, Pierre. I just go on what you've told me. I haven't seen him play, really, so I can't answer that question.
I don't think he's overrated. I think he's a high caliber prospect that can produce offense. He's not very big. I will say this, the biggest analytic problem for the draft was 2020, and that's because of COVID. And there were a lot of players that were not picked that are either signing contracts now, that are costing teams more money. But yeah, no, that was the 1 year where I'd say analytics were flawed. But Michkov, I would not say is overrated. Does he need to get stronger? Yeah, but he's a high caliber player. He's a high caliber player.
All right, next question. Mike, the Habs lost 27 one-goal games this year. Great stat there, Mike. What needs to be done this offseason for them to end up on the other side of those games?
Kirby Dach. Kirby Dach will make a big difference because he'll match up on the other team's top players. He'll produce some offense. Josh Anderson needs to get going. I think he's prepared to have that long, hard discussion with himself after his exit meeting. And I do think they're going to be proactive, trying to add another scoring forward. So if you take those three things and play the same way as you did this year with the energy that they had, you're going to win a lot more of those games. A lot more.
All right. We'll take one more question here. What do we got? Gally, if Colorado doesn't make it out of the first round, do you think they will trade at the draft for a goaltender and release Georgiev? I think they definitely, they already tried, as we discussed, they tried to get a goalie, so I think that would be pretty high on the priority list for the offseason. There's not much on the free agent market, so it's going to have to come.
No, it would have to be via trade.
Yeah. All right. That's it, Pierre. Well, we got one more, Pierre? What do you think? All right. I know you got Melnick coming up. So
that's all right. I don't like to leave anybody hanging high and dry. Let's go.
All right. Let's see what we got. Okay. Yeah. We got one more. That's it. And it is Jason Logan, our good friend, the Penguins fan from New Zealand. Sorry to change subject, but did you guys watch the women's game, Montreal versus Toronto? I did not, Jay, but I heard about the record crowd. I heard a lot of the Canadians were in attendance. It seemed like there was a heck of a buzz. I'm excited that it went well.
I was happy to see the ovation for Marie-Philippe Poulin.
Yes.
She's an amazing ambassador for the sport.
Yeah.
Tremendous talent on the ice, but an amazing ambassador off the ice. So I did not watch the game. a little busy with some other games, but yeah, no, I'm really happy. And obviously Toronto wins in overtime, but I was really happy to see that great fans of Montreal salute Mary Philippe Poulin.
And before we move on from that, Pierre, I wanted to congratulate our good friend Andy Bennett from TSN 69.
Oh, yeah, Andy. She's bringing it on the national show. Good for her.
Good for Andy. So, Andy, if you hear this, I know you're doing a show right now, but congratulations. All right. Want to thank everyone in the comments section there, and we appreciate all your questions. Thanks, of course, to our production crew up there in Montreal. And Pierre, thank you to you as well for
Trip Tracy tomorrow. Trip Tracy, Carolina Hurricanes for everybody out there.
Hurricanes tomorrow with Trip Tracy. So come back here tomorrow. And until then, though, enjoy all that great playoff hockey tonight. We will talk to you tomorrow on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.